You did not arrive here by accident. You did not survive this far by luck. Something inside you refused to break, even when everything around you tried to erase you. This is the moment where silence becomes power, and stillness becomes danger for those who doubted you. This is where they look back and realize too late that the one they ignored learned how to stand alone, without noise, without applause, and without permission. Before this goes any further, listen to me for 1 second. If this message is touching something deep inside you, then stay with it, like this video, so this energy reaches more people who need it. Subscribe, because this channel is not here to entertain your comfort, but to awaken your strength. Comment your presence below, not for validation, but as a promise to yourself that you are not quitting now, not after everything you survived. They never saw this version of you coming. They saw potential and laughed. They saw struggle and felt superior. They saw patience and assumed weakness. What they never understood is that quiet people are not empty. They are full of observation. They are full of memory. They are full of plans forming slowly in the dark. While others talked, you watched. While others celebrated, you prepared. While others wasted time proving themselves, you were becoming something that does not need approval. There is a dangerous moment in every underestimated life. It is the moment when pain stops asking for sympathy and starts building structure. That moment changes everything. That is when effort becomes disciplined. That is when emotions stop leaking and start sharpening focus. That is when the past stops hurting and starts training you. And nobody notices this shift because it happens quietly, without announcements, without dramatic exits, without warnings. People think power looks loud. They think confidence needs performance. They think strength needs an audience. They are wrong. Real power grows in isolation. It grows when nobody claps. It grows when nobody checks on you. It grows when nobody believes in you. Because in those moments, you are forced to believe in yourself or disappear. And you chose to believe. You learned how to move without asking permission. You learned how to build without asking for approval. You learned how to fail without asking for comfort. Each setback taught you something valuable. Not hope, but precision. Not optimism, but control. You stopped reacting emotionally and started responding intentionally. That shift alone already changed the outcome of your life. They remember the old you, the version that doubted, the version that explained too much, the version that tolerated disrespect just to keep peace. They still speak to you like that person exists. They still test boundaries that are no longer flexible. They still expect access they no longer deserve. And that is exactly where their mistake begins. Because while they stayed the same, you evolved. While they repeated habits, you rewrote patterns. While they waited for opportunity, you became prepared for inevitability. And now the distance between who you were and who you are is so wide that their expectations cannot reach you anymore. This is not about revenge. This is not about proving anything to anyone. This is about alignment. This is about becoming so solid within yourself that outside opinions lose their weight. This is about standing in your truth so firmly that disrespect cannot stay in your presence. This is about knowing your value without explaining it. There comes a moment when effort compounds, when discipline starts producing visible results, when consistency becomes undeniable. And when that happens, people feel uncomfortable. Not because you changed, but because your growth exposes their stagnation. Your focus exposes their excuses. Your progress exposes their avoidance. And instead of admitting it, they label you differently. They will say you became distant. They will say you became cold. They will say you changed. What they really mean is you stopped giving them access to the version of you that was easy to manipulate. You stopped shrinking to keep others comfortable. You stopped carrying weight that was never yours. You are not heartless. You are selective. You are not arrogant. You are grounded. You are not angry. You are resolved. There is a difference. And once you understand it, you stop explaining yourself to people who benefit from misunderstanding you. Everything you went through had a purpose. Even the nights where you questioned your worth, even the days where progress felt invisible, even the moments where quitting felt logical. Each one trained your nervous system to handle pressure. Each one refined your patience. Each one strengthened your ability to stand alone. Now, when pressure comes, you do not panic. When chaos appears, you do not rush. When doubt tries to enter, you do not entertain it, because you have already survived worse in silence, and anyone who knows your story knows that the calm you carry now was earned through endurance. This is the point where the energy shifts, where people sense something different but cannot name it. They feel the change in the way you move, in the way you speak less but mean more, in the way you no longer chase validation, in the way your presence commands respect without demanding it. They realize too late that underestimating you gave you time. Time to learn, time to adapt, time to strengthen weaknesses, time to sharpen skills, time to outgrow environments that once defined you. And now that time has matured into capability, you no longer announce your goals because you understand the power of silence. You no longer argue your worth because results speak cleaner than words. You no longer compete because your lane does not intersect with comparison. You simply execute consistently, relentlessly, patiently. And that is what makes this moment dangerous for anyone who doubted you. Not because you plan harm, but because you no longer need them. Their opinions no longer influence your decisions. Their presence no longer affects your confidence. Their absence no longer creates insecurity. You move from survival to strategy, from emotion to execution, from hoping to knowing. And once a person reaches that stage, there is no returning to who they were. Only forward motion remains. This is where they look back and realize they misjudged your silence. They confused your patience for passivity. They mistook your kindness for weakness. They thought your struggle defined your ceiling. They did not see the foundation being built underneath. Now, every step you take feels heavier because it carries intention. Every move you make feels calculated because it is. Every choice you make aligns with a vision that no longer needs external confirmation. And that level of clarity changes how life responds to you. Opportunities start appearing differently. People start treating you differently. Resistance starts showing up because growth always attracts friction. And instead of fearing it, you recognize it as confirmation that you are moving in the right direction. You do not rush this phase. You respect it. You stay disciplined. You stay humble. You stay focused because you know consistency is what separates temporary success from lasting power. And you have no interest in quick wins that collapse under pressure. This is not the end of your story. This is the turning point. This is the chapter where effort begins to echo, where sacrifices begin to show, where patience starts paying interest, where the narrative changes without an announcement. And when they finally realize what you have become, it will not be through words. It will be through distance, through results, through impact, through the way your life no longer revolves around their expectations. They will understand in silence, and by then you will already be too far ahead to notice. Stay focused, stay disciplined, stay quiet. The work is speaking now. The silence around you now is different. It is not empty anymore. It is loaded. It is the kind of silence that comes after understanding yourself fully. You are no longer searching for identity in noise or approval in crowds. You know who you are even on days when nothing goes right. Even on days when progress feels slow, you do not spiral. You adjust. You continue. That alone separates you from most people. You began to understand something very few ever realize. Life does not reward intensity once. It rewards discipline every day. You stopped relying on motivation and started relying on structure. You showed up even when your feelings told you not to. You stayed consistent when nobody was watching. You built habits that carried you forward when confidence dipped. That is real strength. Not excitement, not hype, but the ability to continue without drama. There were moments you wanted to explain your side, moments you wanted to correct the story others told about you, moments you wanted to defend your intentions, but you chose silence instead, not because you were scared, but because you understood something deeper. People committed to misunderstanding you will never hear the truth, and people who truly see you do not need explanations. So you let time do what arguments never could. You let consistency speak where emotions failed. You let growth answer questions you refused to entertain. That decision saved your energy, and energy preserved becomes power. While others were busy watching you, you were busy watching yourself. You noticed patterns, you noticed triggers, you noticed habits that kept pulling you back. And instead of blaming the world, you took responsibility. You changed what needed to be changed, even when it was uncomfortable, especially when it was uncomfortable. That is where the real shift happened. The moment you stopped waiting for life to be fair and started becoming prepared regardless. That mindset is rare, and once adopted, it makes you unstoppable. You stopped reacting instantly. You learned to pause, to think, to respond with intention. That pause alone saved you from countless mistakes. It protected your reputation. It protected your peace. It protected your future. Not everything deserves your response. Not everyone deserves your energy. People around you sense this change, even if they could not articulate it. Conversations felt different. Your presence felt heavier. Your words carried weight because you spoke less. You were no longer predictable. And unpredictability combined with discipline makes people uneasy. They cannot read you like before. They cannot push buttons like before. They cannot access your emotions like before. And when people lose control over you, they often try to label you negatively. Let them. Labels do not stop progress. You learn that growth often requires becoming misunderstood. It requires walking alone for a while. It requires choosing long-term vision over short-term comfort. And you accepted that cost without complaining. Now, your standards are higher, not just for others, but for yourself. You do not tolerate excuses from your own mind. You do not romanticize struggle. You do not wait for perfect conditions. You execute with what you have where you are. That discipline is building momentum even if you cannot fully see it yet. Momentum does not announce itself. It accumulates quietly, and one day it breaks through so clearly that even doubters cannot deny it. You are approaching that phase now, the phase where effort compounds, where small daily actions stack into undeniable results, where the gap between you and who you used to be becomes impossible to ignore. This is where people start saying you are lucky. They did not see the nights you stayed focused when distractions were easy. They did not see the mornings you started when quitting felt logical. They did not see the internal battles you won quietly. Luck is just the name people give to consistency they did not witness. You are no longer driven by proving people wrong. You are driven by fulfilling your own potential. That is a cleaner motivation, a stronger one. because it does not depend on external reactions. It depends on your commitment to yourself, and you keep that commitment even on hard days, especially on hard days. This journey changed how you see everything. You no longer rush success. You respect the process. You understand timing. You know that rushing creates fragile outcomes, and you are building something that lasts. So you stay patient, you stay disciplined, you stay sharp. And when they finally understand what you have become, it will not be dramatic, it will be quiet. A realization that settles in slowly. A moment where they connect the dots too late. Yup, right here. This is when they knew they were completely screwed to hell. Not because you attacked, not because you bragged, but because you outgrew their reach, and you are just getting started. You reached a point where looking back no longer pulls you backward. The memories exist, but they do not control your direction. You remember everything clearly, yet it does not slow you down. That is maturity. That is growth. When the past becomes information, not an anchor, when pain becomes data, not identity, you stopped asking why things happened to you and started asking what they trained you for. That single question shifted your entire mindset. Instead of feeling unlucky, you became strategic. Instead of feeling broken, you became refined. Instead of feeling delayed, you became prepared. Most people never reach this stage because it requires honesty with oneself. It requires admitting mistakes without self-hate. It requires discipline without external pressure. It requires choosing growth when comfort is easier. You chose the harder path repeatedly, and hard paths build rare people. You now understand that not everyone is meant to walk with you forever. Some people were chapters, not the whole story. Some were lessons, not lifelong companions. And once you accepted that, you stopped forcing connections that drained you. You stopped begging for understanding from people committed to misunderstanding you. That decision freed mental space. And mental space is where creativity, clarity, and confidence are born. You no longer overshare. You no longer explain dreams to people who only understand limits. You protect your vision because you know fragile goals collapse under the weight of unnecessary opinions. Silence became your shield, not your weakness. Every day you wake up with intent. Even on days where motivation is low, you still move. Because discipline now leads your actions, not emotions. You trained yourself to act based on values, not feelings. And that is the foundation of unstoppable momentum. You noticed how life responds differently when you change internally. Opportunities align unexpectedly. People approach you with respect they never showed before. Challenges arise, but you meet them with calm, not panic. Because you trust your ability to adapt. That trust did not appear overnight. It was built through repetition, through showing up again and again, through proving to yourself that you can rely on your own word. Self-trust is earned, and once earned, it changes everything. You are no longer intimidated by pressure. Pressure reveals who is prepared, and you are prepared. You have trained your mind to stay steady when things get heavy. You have trained your focus to remain sharp when distractions increase. You have trained your patience to outlast chaos. Others still rush, still compare, still seek shortcuts, still crave validation. And there is nothing wrong with that, but that path no longer interests you. You are building depth, not display, substance, not noise. People who once overlooked you now study you. They notice patterns. They notice consistency. They notice that you no longer react impulsively, and that makes them uncomfortable because growth exposes gaps. They may never admit it, but they feel it. They feel the shift in power, not power over them, power within you. You stopped waiting to be chosen. You chose yourself. You stopped asking for permission. You gave yourself direction. You stopped hoping someone would save you. You became responsible for your own future. That level of ownership separates leaders from followers, builders from consumers, creators from spectators. And the truth is, you are not even at your peak yet. You are still refining, still sharpening, still learning, which makes this phase even more dangerous for doubt and disbelief. Because when preparation meets opportunity, the result looks sudden. But it is never sudden. It is earned quietly. You understand now that consistency beats intensity, that patience beats impulse, that self-control beats raw emotion. And that mindset is rare, so you continue, without rushing, without forcing, without seeking applause. Let them realize slowly. Let them connect the dots late. Let them understand when it no longer matters. You are not here to convince anyone. You are here to become undeniable. And that is exactly what is happening. There is a moment in life when the world's noise no longer drowns your inner voice. When doubts, fears, and opinions that once rattled you fade into irrelevance. That moment is not loud. It is not announced. It is quiet. And it feels like clarity cutting through fog. You realize the only person you need to convince is yourself. The only standard that matters is your own. And in that realization, power begins to manifest naturally. Every failure you endured, every betrayal you faced, every setback you could not control, became part of a blueprint. Pain turned into insight, disappointment into awareness, and struggle into strategy. You learned the art of patience the hard way, not the kind of patience where you wait helplessly, but the kind that watches, calculates, and moves with perfect timing. And timing in life is everything. You discovered that life has no obligation to treat you fairly, but it has every mechanism to reward preparation. So you prepared. You prepared when others were distracted. You prepared when others were distracted by drama. You prepared when they were seeking shortcuts and applause. That preparation now lives inside you as quiet confidence, unshakable presence, and subtle dominance. The people who doubted you, who underestimated you, who mistook your silence for weakness, they cannot comprehend what they are seeing now. They sense it, they feel it, but they cannot define it. That is the difference between temporary victories and deep-rooted power. They cannot label it, cannot predict it, cannot contain it. And that uncertainty terrifies them because it exposes their own stagnation. You learn to master your mind first. You realize that chaos in life only gains control when you allow it to affect your thoughts. So you disciplined your thinking. You refused to ruminate on the impossible. You refused to obsess over opinions that held no weight in your reality. You built mental walls that protect your focus and sharpen your vision. And once the mind is mastered, the world bends to that mastery without resistance. You began to understand the subtle art of influence, not through force, not through spectacle, but through consistency, presence, and results. Influence does not demand attention. It commands it by inevitability. And when you reach that level, the doubters feel powerless. They cannot argue with reality. They cannot interrupt growth. They can only watch and realize too late that they misjudged every single step of your journey. You no longer operate from reaction, but from intention. Every decision is weighed against your values. Every step is aligned with your long-term vision. Every effort contributes to your growth. That is the difference between someone surviving and someone thriving.